Thank you, sir. Now we go over to the question and answer round. The first question is by Ahmad Rahman from Pakistan. How does the concept of environmental melancholia differ from ecological grief?
Yeah, environment. I'm audible?
Yes,
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 sir.
thank. Okay, so Ahmad Rahman, sir, thank you from Pakistan. Uh, Happy to receive your question. Differentiating between environmental melancholia and ecological grief. I think that's a lovely distinction to talk about. I would put it this way: ecological grief is more immediate. Ecological grief is the heartbreak that we feel when we watch a forest burn or a species going extinct. Ecological grief is direct and recognizable. Environmental melancholia, on the other hand, is quieter, but more persistent. This environmental melancholia happens when the grief cannot be resolved. Unlike in ecological grief, environmental melancholia or ecological melancholia cannot be resolved. Instead, it lingers in our collective imagination to such an extent that it shapes our literature, our imagination, our art, even our cultural being, even our moods. It is, I would say, just as Coleridge makes this distinction between fancy and imagination and rates imagination greater or better or on a higher level when compared to fancy. I would say the same with environmental melancholy and ecological grief. Ecological grief is ordinary, more immediate. Environmental melancholia is it is of a higher order. It is like a background music, a music of loss that never vanishes, never fully vanishes. The that rhythm of sadness lingers, and that is the beauty of this sadness. If there is sadness and beauty, I mean, if there is beauty in sadness, then that is what environmental melancholia is all about. Whereas ecological grief, immediate, transient, and can be resolved, and it vanishes. It is direct, it is felt, and it is recognizable. I hope that is probably the best way to, or my way of looking at this distinction. Thank you. Thank you for that question.
Thank you, sir. The next question is from Dr. Sophia Lee from South Korea. Can planetary memory be understood as a counter archive to colonial and anthropocentric histories?
Please go once again.
Can planetary memory be understood as a counter archive to colonial and anthropocentric histories?
Hmm. Yes, yes, absolutely, yes. You know, yeah, colonial and anthropocentric views, archives, focus on human centered achievements. Think of it. The colonial project is anthropocentric, it is based on human achievements, and so it often ignores or erases non human lives. Planetary memory resists just that. It remembers oceans, it remembers soil, it remembers extinct creatures, it even remembers, atmosphere. In the sense, atmosphere also changes. So it remembers even the atmosphere. So think of, planetary memory as an alternate archive, as something that can beautifully replace the colonial archive or the anthropocentric archives and histories. planetary memory can be seen as a solution, as a substitute that can very beautifully and um, profitably replace those archives. And what is why I say it is beautiful, not just for rhetorical flourish, but the point is, planetary memory is not written in books. It is written in coral reefs. It is written in ice cores. It is written in oral traditions. And since you brought this question of colonial um, counter archiving, I would want to bring to your attention this person, uh, Dipesh Chakravarti. He, I cannot remember the book. He speaks about the history of the planet and human history as being entangled. He uses the word entangled. Human history is entangled with the history of the planet. Uh, in the sense, a glacier that melts or a coral reef that bleaches becomes a kind of archive, recording damage, recording survival in ways that human documents cannot. Human archives cannot do what natural archives can do. And I would suggest something because I cannot remember the name of the book by Dipesh Chakrabarti. Somebody can put it in the chat box. That would be great. You can think of Rob Nixon's Slow Violence and the Environmentalism of the Poor. That's a wonderful starting point, especially for people who are interested in this colonial counter archive and anthropocentric history. Yeah. So yeah, brilliant question, tough question. I don't know whether I have answered it, but yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next question is from Catherine Dupont from France. Could we think of literature itself as a form of ecological mourning, a repository of lost worlds and disappearing life forms?
Yeah, of course, of course. Literature works like a time capsule. You can say folk tales. Think of folk tales. They preserve vanished rivers. Think of poems that capture the songs of birds that will never be heard again. Think of novels that evoke and invoke forests that have been lost to urbanization. Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Debel. In the climate history in the planet. Yes, yes, that is the reference. Yes. So think of literary works as time capsules in which you are holding those lost things. So when we read, we step into ecologies that no longer exist. And in that sense, literature doesn't just mourn, it keeps alive what might otherwise, you know, vanish completely. And Jonathan Bates, in his book, The Song of the Earth, says that poetry can act as an ecological memory. Poetry as memory, holding traces of places, holding traces of species that the world has already lost. Or from poetry itself, you can think of the poetry of John Clare as another beautiful example, where the poems mourn the enclosures destroying the English countryside that the poet loved. So, John Clare, Bates, these people have beautifully manifested how literature becomes a kind of repository for ecological mourning. Yeah, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next question is from Daniel Hughes, United Kingdom. Do you see parallels between Freud's ideas of mourning or melancholia and Derrida's concept of ontology in interpreting ecological laws?
Yes, I think we discussed that. Of course, thank you for the question. Freud's idea of melancholia is about not being able to let go of whatever loss you are having, while Derrida's idea of hauntology is about ghosts, things that refuse to disappear. So there is this connection. There is, you were the question was about parallels, right? So this is the definite parallel. Melancholia is about the inability to let go of a loss, and Derrida's hauntology is about ghosts that refuse to disappear. And I think you can see the parallel. Ecological loss often feels like both like Freud's concept of melancholia and Derrida's idea of hauntology. We stay attached to what is gone. That's a human tendency. And the world haunts us with its absences. We hear birds that no longer sing. We feel forests that survive only in memory. And that is why Derrida says if the ghost is always there, even if, I mean, he says the ghost is always there, even if it is not present, even if it is no longer, even if it has never been seen, the ghost is present. The presence of the only presence that we have is that of the ghost. And in that sense, extinct species or destroyed habitats linger like specters, like ghosts, shaping how we live, how we remember things, like remember me of Hamlet. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have a lot of questions. So let me go to the next question from Dr. Natasha Brown, South Africa. How might oceanic memory or blue humanities contribute to the idea of planetary memory you have discussed?
Yeah, definitely. Blue humanities and what else? Oceans, oceanography. The ocean, what is the ocean? It is probably, to borrow the words from a previous question, the ocean is probably the planet's largest archive because it holds geological time. It holds, um, what is it? Kalapani. It holds human migration, Kalapani. Histories of slave trade, histories of slavery, trade. It, 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 it holds with it, that is why when we get a shell, we put it in the ear and we hear the sound of infinity, they say. It captures ecological rhythms. And blue humanities, which we briefly discussed, blue humanities remind us that memory isn't anchored only in land, but also carried by ocean currents, by tides and salt water. Rasina ma'am is here and she has she has written a book on this particular idea. At, she has edited a volume on blue humanities. So this is what these people talk of. When we think of planetary memory, the ocean widens our view. In the sense, it is a memory that flows, shifts, and resists borders. Think of a tsunami. It carries both trauma and resilience. And definitely for a far incisive and better perspective, read Steve Menser and his work, Oceanic New Humanities, and it tells us a lot about how oceans can shape cultural memory and ecological remembrances, ecological thought processes. Yeah, so yeah, planetary memory is connected definitely with oceanography, no doubt. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next question from Maria Gonzalez from Chile. Is melancholia in environmental texts always tragic, or can it also be a site of resistance, even hope?
Melancholia, melancholia is not always tragic. It can be paralyzing, um, but it can also keep, I mean, I would want to think of it as something positive for a change, because it can keep wounds open. Why? Why should wounds be open? So that we don't forget. The, you know, if there is no melancholia, if there is no melancholia in environmental um, texts and books and whatever you talk about, then where will we get the fuel for our poetry? Where will we get the fire for our activism? Where will we have new ethical commitments? So I would say, I mean, I don't know what others would think. For me, at least, melancholia is not tragic. It is a creative chaos. It's a creative discomfort. It doesn't allow us to grow numb because we have no choice. And it did, and in that sense, melancholia resists apathy. You know, sometimes it is better to hold on to loss than having nothing to hold on to. And sometimes holding on to loss can spark hope because it makes us think differently for whatever is left, if anything is left. There is this interesting quote: optimism is cruel, but it is also the scene of possibility. And I think this applies in the case of melancholia, exactly like utopia and dystopia. There are possibilities. Environmental melancholia can work like that. It is painful, yes, but it is also creative. And I think we are the best people to support that. We, in the sense, we people who talk about creativity, literature, art. Think of the poetry of W.S. Merwin, Morning Vanishing Landscapes. Keeping, but what it does is, such poetry keeps imagination fresh. We keep remembering through imagination. And I don't know whether it is a popular reply, but I would want to think about it that way, that melancholy is not always tragic, definitely. Yes, there is
True,
psychological
sir.
turmoil.
And with that, you have answered the next question actually. How is environmental melancholia different from just feeling sad about climate change? From David Johnson, USA. That's what you have been talking about.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
Feeling sad is very personal, you know, it's an emotion. Um, you can feel sad after watching a documentary on climate change or listening to a lecture on climate change. Environmental melancholy is much more than that. It is cultural, it is collective, like collective memory. It is when sadness settles into the stories we tell, the art we create, um, and even the way we imagine the future. It is not a mood. I don't think an ecological melancholia is a mood or a simple feeling. It is a shared condition that shapes and reshapes how we think about ourselves as part and parcel of the planet. Yes, yes, yes. There is a beautiful uh, idea in the chat box. Optimistic cruelty, term by Berlin. Yes, thank you, Shilpa Kumari. Yes, yeah, people are having wonderful ideas flowing in. I mean, I should not be the only person answering because there are a lot of interesting thoughts being floated by our participants. Nice, nice. Thank you. Thank you.
So we can go on to the next question. From Fatima Noor, UAE. What exactly does posthumanism mean in simple terms, and how is it connected to environmental thought?
I mean, posthumanism, of course, we can understand posthumanism as, um, in simple terms, right? It is very, basically, posthumanism means moving humans from the center of the picture. It is posthumanism. What picture? We have to understand that humans, as human beings, we are part of a large network that involves animals, plants, AI, machines, ecosystems, and that is what posthumanism is about. We don't occupy the center, but I like the second part of your question more. How is it connected to environmental thought? How is posthumanism connected to environmental thought? That is something I was trying to answer in this lecture. I know I haven't been fully successful in doing that because that is not an easy connection to establish. The point is, in environmental thinking, the shift is powerful. It, environmental thinking makes us see that the earth isn't just out there as a background for our literature, for our stories. We are, meshed, we are woven into its very fabric. And our fate is tied up with the rivers, with with the bees, with the bacteria, with all these things, with the atoms. So it is inextricably linked to environment, I believe. Posthumanism is both are, it is like saying the obvious in a way, but then how to explain that in simple words, I don't know. I think I was asked only to explain posthumanism in simple words, I guess. Yeah. Vision of a future where humanity evolves beyond its current limits. Yes. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Um, Next question is from Pedro Silva from Brazil. Why do scholars use the term Anthropocene if not all humans are equally responsible for the ecological crisis?
Yeah, I mean, we can say I am not responsible. I didn't do anything. Of course, I put all waste in plastic bins. I recycle waste. I recycle things. I don't pollute the environment. I don't use carbon. Yeah, my dear friend, yes, you have a point. And I would, because this is a platform, I would put it in a different way, and I would say that name not available. I would say that yes, Anthropocene is, see, probably I made a mistake when I said Anthropocene is this. It is not something that is. Let me put it like this. It is a contested term. Not everybody agrees that this is the Anthropocene. Anthropocene simply suggests that all humans caused the crisis. Whatever problems we are having is caused by human beings, all of us, in the sense, though it doesn't say all humans, but when it says the age of humans, and it is because of the age of humans, we all feel like we are, you know falsely blamed. But then, yes, responsibility is uneven, no doubt. Industrialized nations, capitalized systems, they have done far more damage than, let us say, small rural economies, so small rural communities. Can we say that our villages have contributed to um, ours being an Anthropocene compared to cities? No, there is a definite unevenness, parochial nature of distributing the responsibility, and that is probably why some people prefer some other words. There are words like capitalocene, where we are putting the blame on capitalism, or plantationocene, where we are blaming the plantations. So, yeah, I mean, Anthropocene is not always accepted by all and sundry, but probably I should have said this also in the lecture. But the point is, Anthropocene is something that the academia loves like nothing. The academic world loves Anthropocene like nothing, and that is why this term has caught on. But yes, there are differing voices. Um, Anthropocene has stuck because it captures a planetary threshold also. The idea that human beings collectively have become a, um, what can I say, become a geological force and a geological farce. human beings as geological force and farce. That is what Anthropocene beautifully captures. And I also love the similarity of Anthropocene with anthropocentrism. And probably those ideas are very opposite. So maybe that is why, but yeah, you are not responsible, my friend. You are not as responsible as Donald Trump. No, you aren't. No, you have never walked out of a climate pact. No, like Trump did. Yes, thank you. Are we done?
No, sir. Um, there's another question from Anna Schmidt from Germany. Can you explain how literature helps us remember the planet in ways that science cannot?
We always love this fight between arts and science, literature and science. Science is scientific. I don't have to tell you this. But then, what does science tell us? It tells us about temperature when we are talking about climate changes. It talks about the rise in temperature. It talks about extinction rates. It talks about the height of the sea 10 years before and the height of the sea level presently. So that is what science does. I mean, I should not answer this because I will never answer it in favor of science. And so it is not fair that I am answering this question. But what I feel is literature gives flesh and bones and feelings to those numbers that science gives us. A poem can make us mourn the loss of a species. A novel can turn a vanishing forest into a part of an emotional world. Literature is memorizing something with, not with numbers, but with emotions, with affect, you can say. It ensures that just we don't just know the numbers, we carry the stories as well. And yeah, I mean, you can think of so many ideas. Amitabh, of course, the hungry type, where the Sundarbans are not just a landscape under threat, but a living, storied world. We enter through the narrative of Kosh. There are multiple ways, but I think it is unfair that um, I answer this question, and because I'm not equipped or knowledgeable enough to answer this question from the perspective of science. So there is a definite problem of unfairness if I answer this question. So yeah, thank you. Brilliant points. I think we have some amazing questions, things. Happy that people are thinking about these questions. And yeah, science and literature have different ways of uh, planet memory, remembering the planet. Yes, thank you. You can think about Jonathan Bates' The Song of the Earth. It explores how literature helps us imagine and remember the planet in ways the, that science cannot. So maybe, yeah. Yes, yes, ma'am.
Yes, I think the next question is connected to this, and I'll just put forth the question um, by Mariam Abbas from Iran. How do poetry and metaphor help us talk about planetary memory better than straightforward description?
Yes, ma'am. You are right. This is the same. I guess this is the same question in other
Yes,
words. So, yeah, metaphor has a way of carrying emotions than plain facts. Um, yeah, I think that question is more or less answered. I hope so. Metaphors. Think when we say the earth is bleeding or the sea is swallowing cities. When we say things like that, it conveys not just information but a certain feeling. Poetry, literature, metaphors, it takes the abstract and makes it immediate, makes it intimate, and it puts planetary losses and memory remembrance into human language that stirs us into action, probably, in the Brechtian way. If it can stir us into action, that is good, or at least it lingers with us and sometimes unsettles us. So yeah, action sometimes words without action cannot do anything. But then, yeah, it is, as you said, it is far better than scientific description if I am answering. But a science person would definitely differ when they are answering this question. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Let us go to the next question from Lucas Fernandez from Argentina. If we think in terms of post humanism, does human responsibility for ecological damage get diluted?
Once more.
If we think in terms of post humanism,
Okay.
does human responsibility for ecological damage get diluted?
Ha. Maybe yes, um, because we are distributing the responsibility, right? We say, when we say we are in a post-human world, we are distributing the responsibility among not just human beings, but also with plants, with animals, um, with machines. Because yes, the machines are responsible. You can put file a petition against the JCB for destroying a lot of the planet. So, yeah, but then who is controlling all this, and what is the era we are living in? And that is where we have to keep remembering that we are living in the Anthropocene. And when you live in the Anthropocene, it is very difficult to say that we are not responsible, or we are only as responsible as plants and animals, because they don't do anything with technology, and man with technology is probably the biggest culprit in environmental destruction. And when I speak of technology, I don't only mean AI or computer or machines. I mean the original definition of technology, where technology means anything that is put to use for the purpose that it was not originally designed for. And in that sense, we cannot evade responsibility. We are accountable for what is happening to the planet. And yeah, there is this always this pleasant or convenient way of sharing responsibility and saying, the way Trump does, everybody is responsible, so let others take care, and let us take care of our selfish interests. But then that sort of thinking will not help anything. That is the problem. So when we think of a way of a perspective, we should also think what it helps and what it does. And that is where I believe that we have to bear the brunt of the responsibility for what is happening to us and our planet. Yeah, thank you.
So, there is another question from Diego Alvarez from Spain. If extinct species haunt us in a post human world, being anthropocentric, should I be worried about a mosquito ghost buzzing in my ear at night?
What is that? Come again, please.
If extinct species haunt us in a post human world, being anthropocentric, should I be worried about a mosquito ghost buzzing in my ear at night?
Well, you can worry if you were particularly cruel to mosquitoes in your previous birth. Uh, if you were very cruel to mosquitoes in your, I don't know whether you believe in multiple births. We in India do. So if you were a mosquito hunter in your previous birth, then you have to worry in this anthropocentric world that this mosquito could be an ex ghost of some extinct mosquito. I would think that you should worry more about a mosquito vampire. It can be doubly dangerous. Why? Because it both mosquitoes and vampires suck blood out of you. And I would even be more worried about, say, a ghost elephant in my room rather than a ghost mosquito in my ear. You can at least swat the mosquito ghost aside, but try swatting an elephant and you will know. So I guess that was a fun question. Like, Maybe that
Yes,
is an indicator that we want to wind up as well. Is it?
yes. There's just one question from Chloe Martin from Canada, and I think it's linked to
Yeah,
earlier
yeah. See,
questions.
there is something interesting. Ramsar says mosquitoes love not all. They like special blooded humans. There is a say. Okay, I hope there is no I in blooded. It is not bloody, bloodied humans. Yeah, yeah, that is true. Yeah, I mean, funny questions will have funny answers, but this is very poignant. India. We have blood. That is why mosquitoes haunt us. Maybe that was the point in the question. Mosquito buzzing in the ear, telling you that you have blood and you are bloody, and that is why I am buzzing in your ear. I am the ghost of a an extinct species. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. What is the question? Sorry.
Yes, from Chloe Martin from Canada. Is there a way for environmental melancholia to inspire action rather than leave us feeling hopeless? So, we have been talking about this.
Yes, yes, yes. That is the hopeful side of melancholia. And though I didn't want to, I ended the lecture on an optimistic note where we needn't be all hopeless. If we treat melancholia as a call to linger with our losses, it can actually motivate us to think differently, have a different perspective. It reminds us that not everything is lost. And see, there is also this point. Melancholia is also telling us that when you say not everything is lost, you have a responsibility at least to protect what is left. And that is right. Protecting what is left is the right thing for us. Maybe we cannot protect what is lost, but we can protect what is left. And that is the right thing for us. So, melancholia, instead of paralyzing us, can sharpen our sense of urgency. You can, I mean, think of environmental melancholy. I mean, as a general confusion in most of the questions, people are worried that melancholia is a bad term, I guess. See, melancholia, think of melancholia as a fire alarm. Think of it as a fire alarm. Now, it is loud, it is annoying, it is hard to ignore, but that irritation is what gets us moving. Sadness about vanishing species or changing climates doesn't have to freeze us. It can push us to protect what is left. So, yeah, hope is not a lottery ticket you sit on the sofa clutching. It is an axe you break down doors with. Yeah. Yes, man.
Yes, we have already dealt with the questions that we received from our international participants. Now we can go to the chat box and take up some questions from there.
The
Um,
last question is particularly interesting. I guess time was from
yes,
6 to 7:30. Uh, a timely reminder, thanks to Aruj Junaid, brother or sister, if you are sitting thinking there is a feedback form, or yeah, people are asking for feedback form. If there is one, I don't think there is attendance or um, a certificate, so that way you are free. But yeah, timely reminder. The cons Sajal Fatima say asks, sister from Pakistan, nice to meet you, Aruj. Thank you. uh, yeah, yeah. Time was 6 to 7:30, but as usual, we are going beyond time. We are timeless. Why can't we? Isn't it, Aruj? If we are spaceless, I'm sitting in India and talking to you in Pakistan, then we can be timeless as well. Yeah, thank you. So, Sajil Fatima, the concept of, yeah, she has posted the question again from Pakistan. It's okay. We are having a lot of questions from Pakistan. The concept of the Anthropocene risks normalizing human domination over nature. Can it turn?
it's a turning point. Actually, it's a typing error.
Okay,
Turning point.
can it be a turning point for ecological awareness? Yes. Why are we talking about the Anthropocene? Good question. Um, I said what the Anthropocene is, but I didn't tell you probably I should have, or people, not just me, people talking about Anthropocene should ask this question: why are we talking about the Anthropocene? Because it is not a good story that the Anthropocene tells. Yes, scientifically, it simply says that it is about the footprints of the human being on the planet, on its on the rock layers, on its fossil. But very relevant question. It risks normalizing human domination over nature. So uh, I don't think the concept itself risks normalizing. The concept is a reminder, as you rightly put, it is a turning point or it is a warning. Okay, we are in the Anthropocene. It is like Kali Yug in India. Kali Yug, it is a reminder that you are living in the worst of times, not in the best of times. You are living in the worst of times. That is the um, point that the concept of Anthropocene should be trying to make, if it isn't. So yeah, there is a chance that it can risk normalizing, saying that okay, it is a given. Yeah, if it is, because we are the dominant species, we have set our footprints even on the rock layers and the fossil fuels, so fossils. So our domination is a given. We will continue to dominate this planet and destroy this planet. Is there a risk? Yes. But I believe that when we are talking about the Anthropocene, instead of eulogizing the anthropocentrism, uh, what we are trying to do is we are trying to put to task the anthropocentrism that has led to the Anthropocene. So, good question, very important, interesting question as well. This is something that geologists also should answer. That is when scientists should be taken to task as well. So, what do you mean when you say that it is the Anthropocene? Do you mean that okay, it is fine that we can simply dominate and exploit the planet, or do you mean by calling it the Anthropocene to say that it is dangerous, it is a warning, and if we don't take care and do something immediately, we are in big trouble? Probably that is how we should understand Anthropocene. Very interesting point, Sajjal Fatima. Thank you. Yes, good, very good question.
So there's another question from Dr. Rajina Banu. Uh, are all humans really at the center? If humanism is a failed theory and is replaced by post-humanism to address the issues of the marginalized, how does post-humanism address or aggravate the existing humanistic issues?
Yes, yes, that is a problem. But then, see, that is a problem within the species, within the Homo sapiens species. Are all humans at the center? No, we have margins. We have marginalized voices and we have voiceless margins. Yesterday, somebody was talking about these 2 points: marginalized voices and voiceless margins. We have those within the human species itself, no doubt. Not all humans are at the center, and that is why we have ideas like the capitalocene when it comes to countries, and when it comes to human beings, we still have the disparity between the haves and the have-nots, the rich and the poor, people who wield a greater power over the planet, and those who wield a lesser power, and people who wield a greater power but who care for the planet, by like Chief Seattle, for a wonderful example. Chief Seattle of the Red Indian, Red Indians, right? American Red Indian, American Indians. What is it? So Chief Seattle, So yeah, there are good people, but mostly what happens is we see people like Donald Trump walking out of climate pacts, walking out of climate summits, and saying we will do what we want. It is our free will. It is our choice. So that is the problem. And now, humanism, when juxtaposed with post humanism, the question is not within human. See, post humanism, first it decenters the human centric worldview, and post humanism is saying that, come on, yes, you human beings have created a lot of problems, and you have a lot of problems within your species, But come on, there are other species as well. Why are it okay? You have created such a mess that you have messed around not only with your women and your marginalized communities and silenced voices, you have also messed around with the planet. And you know, it is about doubly marginalized and triply marginalized. But then what about animals? See, recently we saw the court orders on killing dogs, or catching dogs, street dogs in Delhi, and lot of protests going on. I'm not taking a stance because there are different ways of looking at it, but the point is, when an animal rights activist asks, think of yourself as a stray dog, and then want to talk about dogs' rights. But just because a dog cannot speak, how can you simply say that, okay, dogs can be, anything can be done to dogs? What is it? You know, make lot of things are done to animals as if we are the custodians. Is it right? So this is the question that posthumanism tries to ask. And it is not just about animals and humans. It is also about plants. It is also about ecosystems. It is also about machines. So, does the question, does posthumanism address or aggravate the existing humanistic issues? I think it is not addressing existing humanistic issues. That is not the point with posthumanism. The point with posthumanism is some completely different. I don't think it either addresses or aggravates existing humanistic issues. It is asking us to think of other things also. So I don't know whether it has aggravated anything or addressed anything. I don't think it does neither. It is a totally different thing, because it is trying, when you say that the question itself is humanistic and anthropocentric in nature, I would say. Dr. Regina Banu, your question is anthropocentric, because you are trying to bring man back to the center of even post-humanist discourse. I mean, I understand the uh, you know sensitivity of the question, and I understand the sense that you are trying to make, but then I should always be thinking of we be thinking about human beings. Yeah.
So there's another question from Dr. Lakshmi M. Is solastalgia
Where
a
is it? Where is it?
counteraction?
Where is it?
A bit, if you scroll a bit upwards, maybe
Time,
you'll
can you tell me the time stamp?
7:43 p.m.
Okay. Is
Is
solastalgia
solastalgia? Yes,
a
a count.
counteraction or a form of ecological trauma? Could you elaborate, as nostalgia is more explicit in eco movies? I'm not very familiar with eco movies or solastalgia. The basic idea is, um, there are different concepts emerging out of the idea of the irresolvability of whatever melancholia, whatever feeling we have when we think about environmental laws. So, is it a counteraction or a form of ecological trauma? I would think that it is a form of ecological trauma. It is another way of saying um, ecological melancholia. But then the definition of solastalgia would definitely be something very different. I'm not, yeah, I remember I told you that this is another word that eco-psychologists use in connection with ecological melancholia. Yeah, I did mean it as kind of ecological trauma, definitely. But then by definition, it isn't. It is something different. And um, probably someone else can answer that question better, someone who knows and understands solastalgia better. I was just talking about it in a very general sense, not anything particular. And if you know, probably Lakshmi ma'am, you were coming up with very interesting remarks and suggestions. So Maybe you can put an answer to that question about what you think. Maybe you can unmute yourself if it is allowed.
Yes, Dr. Lakshmi, if you want to unmute
Good evening,
yourself.
ma'am.
Yes, yes,
Good
please.
evening, ma'am. Good evening, sir.
Good
It was
evening, ma'am.
nice listening from you, sir. It was a great, interesting session, and I was completely nailed to the session. When we
Nailed
talk about
positively, right?
ecological,
You were
yeah,
not nailed like Christ to the cross, right? Or the
no, no,
albatross
no, no.
to
I was
the.
nailed with completely. I was into the session. You are quoting lines from Wordsworth, from Coleridge. You are quoting lines from various writers. You quoted even critics like Timothy Morton and others. So I, in fact, remembered my thesis also, sir.
Okay.
So just I had that question. Now I am doing my project on eco movies also. So Avatar also reflects some sort of ecological melancholia in some aspects as living not only man, or you can say living beings, but also the you can say the other animals and all the other species also need to be respected. That sort of trauma is also being expressed there, and the kind of you talked about the colonizing effects or the kind of capitalistic effects, all these are seen in that movie too, sir. So is there any possibility that there is a reflection of trauma or melancholy in a deeper sense? Trauma is only onto the surface, sir, but when we talk of melancholy, it's a deeper emotion. It's having a deeper impact. So can I know
No,
about it?
no. I think trauma is the worst. Melancholia doesn't, trauma is far worse than any of this. I mean, by definition, by any stretch of imagination, trauma is probably the worst because it is reliving something tragic that happened. When you talk about melancholia, you are just living through it, but it is not reliving something in its enormity and entirety, in its intensity. No, the intensity is far lesser in melancholia. Same with mourning. Mourning, melancholia, mourning. If you believe in, or if you are a Freudian, you would say that okay, mourning is good because it gets resolved ultimately. Ultimately, you get used to it and you accept it and you move on from that bad memory, bad whatever sorrow you are having. Melancholia is one level more, in the sense it where you get stuck and you cannot move out of it and you are trapped. What happens to Coleridge's um, Ancient Mariner, when the albatross around his neck was hung. He there was a curse, and melancholy is like that. But even that curse slowly uh, was removed from that person, as he as from the Ancient Mariner, as he narrated and articulated what he did to the albatross to the wedding guest or to other people. So there, I think, my personal perception, I don't know whether it is theoretically correct. What I think is, for mourning in real life itself, we have a solution. You accept it and you move on. For melancholia, there is a literary solution, which is salvation through narrativization. Through literature, you present it, you express it, and then gradually you get out of it. That is one way of salvation in melancholia. Now, when it comes to trauma, that is a far more difficult question, because how much of a control you have and how much of a salvation you are getting through this narrativization. The best example of this would be Malala Yousafzai. What happened to her in as she depicts in the first part of I Am Malala. She tells us what she went through when she was shot on the head while she was traveling in a school bus. in a bus, shot in the head. That was a trauma. And I don't know if she succeeded, but what she was trying to do, I mean, theoretically only, not literally, not in a practical world, but what she was trying to do probably by writing I Am Malala, the autobiography, the memoir, is that she tried to narrativize her trauma. And by narrativizing it, she hoped that she will get a catharsis kind of experience from. Now, when I tell it to one person, I get a little bit of catharsis, a little bit of, um, salvation, a little bit of heaven I see. But when your book is read in I Am Malala became a bestseller. I don't know whether I'm mixing the real with fantastical, whether I sound a little magical realist. But the point is, when Malala's book I Am Malala was read, when she spoke about her pain in front of the United Nations Assembly, when such things happened, there were lakhs and lakhs of people who gave her consolation, salvation. This is now, if you say this is just nonsense, then we cannot be calling ourselves literature people, because our literature mostly relies on catharsis. And catharsis is some kind of purgation that you get when you attend to this, and the multiple definitions that we have for, there's not definition, but multiple interpretations that we have for the word catharsis as purgation, purification, absolution. Who gives absolution? The audience gives absolution to um, the character. So this kind of absolution also happens. So maybe um, there is a heightening of intensity from mourning through melancholia to trauma. This is how I think about it. Definitely, other opinions are welcome. What do you think, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Definitely, what you said is there are various levels at which all sorts of emotions can be expressed, and trauma, in fact, when we talk about it in psychological sense, we talk about trauma as a disorder, in fact. But as in literature, trauma is reflected in terms in feminist literature. When we talk about feminist writers writing about women, they talk about emotional trauma in most of the novels.
Well, you cannot say
So
trauma
I,
is represented in feminist literature, because the definition of trauma is that it is something that cannot be represented. So, by definition, trauma cannot be represented. I understand your sense. You're saying that they talk about trauma when they talk about feminist literature. They talk about traumatic experiences. But the question is, how much are they expressed to articulate in words? Because trauma is beyond words by definition. I
yeah,
know we have
beyond
to.
words, sir, but traumatic experiences have been um, you can say, have been represented and shown in various literary works like double marginalization, double oppression of women, not only by the society, not only by the family, but also by the way in which rules are laid down since age old traditions. And even in some aspects, ecofeminism also projects, like Anita Desai's novel, The Fire on the Mountain, also
I
projects
think
certain traumatic experiences.
I think you are generalizing the idea of trauma. You are using it in a general sense of as a sad experience rather than the theoretical idea of trauma, I guess. In that sense, yes, it is traumatic. In the sense we say, yeah, Navodita ma'am says something. Trauma in real, in movies and in literature is different. Exactly. Exactly. It is very different. Trauma, uh, I don't think we have a right to talk about trauma even in in this way, because it is an intense experience undergone by the survivor of a trauma. And trauma is not a memory. Trauma, unlike any other kind of sad experiences, trauma is not a memory. It is an experience. It is always an experience, and it is reliving an experience. And that is why people like Adorno, people like Derrida, all these people have um, connected trauma with an aporia, where you cannot actually find sense, or you cannot put it into words, where you cannot connect it with any thing that can be articulated in words, in literature. It theoretically it says, it is said that trauma is not represented even in literature, even in painting. Trauma is not representable. So maybe when we talk about trauma in a specialized context, what you say is will not work. But in a general sense, yes, traumatic experiences. But I think when we are talking about research papers or literary works, we should not be using the word trauma for those experiences, because we are generalizing trauma, and we should be using tragic experiences. There are other words you can use. Trauma has this, because of trauma studies and all, and because of the psychological implications of trauma, it has a very specialized meaning, specialized implication. And yeah, that is what I think.
Sir, are you willing to continue with the questions, or would you like rest?
There is this statement by Dr. Ram Bhaskar Raju. He says, trauma is a deep, often sudden emotional wound caused by a distressing event, while melancholy is a prolonged, quiet sadness without a specific triggering incident. Yeah, correct point. Very important point. There is a trigger to a trauma. Melancholy isn't triggered by a specific incident, and trauma is deep, it is sudden, and it is an emotional wound, whereas melancholy is prolonged, it is quiet. Yes, it is quiet, and it is a sadness without a trigger. Yeah, I mean, very beautifully said, sir. Thank you. I think that beautifully encapsulates what I was trying to put together in so many useless words. So, very well, very succinctly put, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for patiently dealing with all the questions. Should Do you want to take up one or two more, or should we wind up?
I'm open to everything.
Because the participants also are concerned for you, and they think that we should allow you to rest,
Yeah,
and they
Navodita
think
ma'am
that
says,
organizers are the culprits, and they are making you talk and talk.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm happy that Navodita ma'am is worried about me having a traumatic experience handling the questions. Thank you, ma'am. You are right. Actually, we had a flood of questions, and yeah, maybe if anyone has some pressing question to ask, I'm
Okay,
still
sir,
happy.
there is one question from Shashikala. The time stamp is 7:47 p.m. What role does fostering emotional connections to nature play in overcoming ecological numbness and promoting environmental engagement?
Big role, definitely. See, that is the one of the central concerns of today's lecture. You know, emotional connections to nature, and it is not just connections, but not attributing emotions to nature either. But we are trying to say that nature has emotions, and that is not something pure, simply metaphorical, or something um, you know, imaginative, but it is something very much real. And this feeling can definitely help us feel the pain of, because, see, uh, there is this famous saying, you kill a mosquito and nobody worries about it. There is no sin in it. You kill a cow, there is a problem. You kill a bigger animal, there is a problem. But not killing a mosquito. And I think it was Nietzsche who said there is, um, what was it? I cannot remember the exact quotation, but the idea was the way you kill a when you kill a cockroach, you are hailed as a hero. When you kill a deer, uh, deer in the forest or something, some beautiful animal, then it is you are a cruel human being. So there is an aesthetic uh, narrow-mindedness even in this idea. And so what am I talking about?
So,
No, I was saying, so the point is, um, we have a tendency to feel more pain and to be more empathetic when the object of suffering is something intimate, when the object of suffering is something big. Really, we feel for the object when the object is bigger in size. It is, yeah, you can say that, okay, so what is more painful, killing a baby or killing an elderly person? Yeah, probably killing a baby may give more pain, but in many ways what happens is the bigness of things, as capitalists would say, the bigness of things has an impact. And so I think this numbness, we you know as flies to wanton god as flies to wanton boys, that sense will not be there when we see it as something. I can kill a mosquito, but can I kill a hen or a bird? I cannot. I don't feel anything sinful or bad or cruel about killing a mosquito. Not because it bites me alone. If it doesn't bite me also, I will just clap hands and I will make fun of it. Why? Does that mean that I'm very cruel? Does that mean I'm not cruel? I think this is numbness. And this numbness will at least reduce when we are giving an emotional, when we attribute a subjectivity and and an emotion to the planet, to the environment. This is uh, one very important thing, and that is why I think what you say is absolutely correct. Attributing emotions to nature plays a very important role in overcoming ecological numbness, because you feel it more realistically. Unless, otherwise you think it is lifeless, you think it doesn't matter, you don't feel it. And the more we can talk about the environment in humane terms and human terms, in emotional terms, in affective vocabulary, I think that will be better for some of us at least.
yes, sir. So there's another question by Shiva Sharma at 8:08 p.m. Does literature reinforce the anthropocentric view of the world or challenge it? And I think we
Wind
can
up
end.
with that. Yes, I think literature per se tries to challenge anthropocentrism. Literature tries to challenge the anthropocentrism. That is what literary theory, especially, has taken as one of its manifestos. Probably the manifesto of literary theory since the 1960s has been um, removing anthropocentrism, challenging anthropocentrism. Literature, um, yeah, contemporary literature is trying. I want to think that literature is trying to challenge anthropocentrism, but does it succeed? Um, I don't know whether it succeeds in some huge level, but it at least asks certain questions. It makes us reflect on things. It makes us question our assumptions and our presumptions. And I think that way, yes, literature helps a lot. But if you look at different works, there are different ways of it, and there are human-centric, anthropocentric works which stress and emphasize anthropocentrism. There are, But there are increasingly more works coming out which try to portray the emotional side of non human entities, machines, AI. And I feel, if I'm very honest, what I believe is I want literature to challenge anthropocentrism, but I believe that it is literary theory that is more successfully doing it than literature. This is how I think. Yes, so that is the end. Yeah, killing a cockroach is not seen as cruel as killing a butterfly. True. Exactly. Was it Nietzsche who said this? Mm. There is aesthetic category to our something like that Nietzsche said, I guess. Indigenous people have also lived through traumatic. Yes, yes, absolutely. Northeast, absolutely. Yeah. So over to
Yes.
you, Shatrupa ma'am.
So, when will it end? So, we have come to the end of this wonderful session. I know it is very tiring for Manu sir, but uh,
I can see
when
that
there are
participants are
questions,
more tired than I am, which is very nice of me.
so when there are questions, I know that you like to address each of them, and yes, questions are important because uh, they make us think in so many different lines which we usually would not have thought of, and that's why I thank you for taking up each question and spending time with it and trying to do justice to it. uh, your talk was wonderful, weaving so many different elements in it.